So meaning that if we were to bring in the same level of traffic with the same keywords in terms of the cost per click of those keywords, we would have to pay Google $1.4 million a month, every month, to bring in the same flow of traffic. So if you calculate that, then whatever amount of money we spend on our content and SEO is minuscule compared to the ROI we're getting at. So we want to find whoever is the right person for that piece. So it could be the writer of that article, but only if the writer works at the company. Because if they're a freelance writer, if they quit their job last month, obviously it wouldn't be the right contact to reach out. So
this podcast is brought to you by Bambassadors.com, the go-to platform for e-commerce brands to create video reviews that boost social proof and sales on TikTok and beyond. Get your first video review created and posted by a genuine creator, completely free, no strings attached, and no credit card required at Bambassadors.com.
Welcome to the EcomXFactor podcast, where it's all about launching and scaling your business using sales funnels, automations, and smart marketing. And now, please welcome your host, the founder of EcomXFactor, Yaron Bin.
Hey Farzad, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you very much, Yaron, for having me on the show.
It's my pleasure, and I'm looking forward to our conversation because, as I told you, I really love what you guys are doing, and I'm looking forward to learning from you about SEO and outreaching. So can you tell us a bit about your Respona and what you guys are doing?
Absolutely. So we're an all-in-one outreach platform for SEO and marketing teams. So basically, I would say the most common use case of our platform is when content marketing teams or SEO teams would like to build editorial quality backlinks to their websites. So basically, it's a very tedious process to try to figure out what websites to reach out to, who is the right person, finding their contacts, reaching out to them, personalizing those pitches and follow up. So it's something that is sort of normally done by duct taping a bunch of different tools. And Respona basically brings the whole process under one roof and automates a lot of the dirty work, mundane tasks in terms of like finding, verifying contacts and all that stuff and the sending actions so that you can focus more on personalization. So that's sort of the promise of Respona.
And I know that you guys have an interesting background story. I mean, the way that Respona was founded. So can you elaborate about this?
Of course, yes, absolutely. So I started my career in marketing actually at a company called Visme. So for folks who haven't heard of Visme, wow, we haven't done a good job then yet, but I'm just kidding. But basically Visme is an all-in-one branded content creation tool. So basically if you run a business, it's likely you would need to create any sort of, presentations or other sort of visual assets like reports, proposals. So Visme was created back in 2013 as a bootstrap startup. And we didn't have the marketing budget to pour all of our cash into paid ads, just like a lot of other companies were. And the price point of the product is designed to be very affordable. So it's like, I think at the time we were at like $14 a month or something. It's like very cheap. So it wasn't a type of product it would be worth hiring salespeople for to go knock on doors one by one and sell the product, right? Mm-hmm. So we had to come up with a solution to that so that would bring in a consistent flow of customers to our platform without us having to spend a ton of money, which is,
good luck with
that. Yeah, that's right. It's like every business's dream. Yeah. So we basically landed on, we started thinking about, okay, how are people finding a solution like ours, right? So let's go through an example. So let's say you have a presentation you want to create tomorrow and you do not want to use PowerPoint or any of the traditional tools. Like, what's the first step in the research process in terms of finding a new solution or product? First step is to Google. Mm-hmm. And then when I find a product, then I normally want to do some extra research to read, feedback on Facebook groups or after that. But we knew that our customers are potentially going to be finding us through Google because that's normally the type of industry that we are in, the type of product that we sell is a type of product that people would normally Google. And, obviously, if you've run a medical device company, you sell like hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical devices. Normally, people aren't finding those through Google, right? You want to go sell door to door. Or if you're selling, for example, like t-shirts and jackets and stuff that is like every day. Unlikely people are Googling to find those. So normally Facebook ads or Instagram ads would be a better customer acquisition channel. So it's not for everybody. I'm not advertising for SEO as the one and only customer acquisition channel for all businesses, but the type of product that we sell, we knew from day one that, okay, this is the type of product that people are actually actively searching for. And we want to show up in places where they're looking for it instead of us being a household name, because that's extremely expensive to do. So what we started to do was to go through the process of basically writing pieces of content. You know, obviously there's a lot of best practices when it comes to SEO, like building a really good site. And we started building a bunch of landing pages, template pages. And guess what happened?
It failed.
Exactly. It was crickets. There was not a single person who commented to our website. We're like, okay, well, we just did all this for nothing. So we had to go back to the drawing board. We're like, okay, where did we go wrong? So I remember this one day, I just pulled up Google. And one of the, obviously the key terms for us is the term presentation software. So guess, Yaron, how many search results pop up in the search results when I go look for a term presentation software? It's 3.7 billion search results for the term presentation software. All right. And Visme is ranking number 1.
Oh, wow.
And we actually have a little widget underneath. Hopefully by the time this episode comes out, we're still going to be there. Nice. But basically we were like, okay, let's think about this logically, because if Google were to just prioritize web pages based on the quality of the content, even if you're in the top 1% in terms of on-page metrics, like how fast your site loads, how the quality and the content is so good, it's responsive, it's mobile friendly, all the stuff that is traditional, like and basically is common knowledge for a lot of SEOs. They're like, okay, let's build a good site that's optimized for search engines. But that's what everybody does. So even if you're in the top 1%, you're still going to be in the hundreds of millions of search rankings. So how would you go from the 100 millionth to top 10? They get over 99% of the clicks. So we're like, okay, let's understand how these search engines work. So the way Google actually beat all the other search engines back in the day in the 90s was by the algorithm called PageRank, which basically it's the same principle as like academic journals. So how they value an academic journal is how many times it's been cited by other people in other journals, right? So they applied the same logic to web pages. We're like, okay, if other websites are actively talking about them and linking to these web pages from other relevant authoritative sources, not just some random sites, that means that, okay, these guys are obviously a lot better than the rest of the web pages. So let's prioritize them. And doing that radically improved the quality of the search results. And that's sort of how Google beat Yahoo and AOL and all these other search engines that were popular back in the day. Because what a lot of these search engines would do is just to focus on keywords, that people are just stuffing these keywords on their web pages and it will pop up and it was just all junk. So Google was like, okay, but you cannot control how other people are talking about you. So it's very difficult now to try to get search results in Google, just because it's not only reliant on what you do on your website, it's also what other people are saying about you. So we're like, okay, well, we know this, that's fair. How will we go get other people to come mention us? I mean, it's easier said than done, because obviously, you know, it's when stuff that's and that's what a lot of businesses do when they want to focus on investing in SEO. Just go hire writers, editors, SEO people to focus so much on these technical details of like HTML tags and whatever, and they go and put together this really fancy site and then start producing content. And that's where they call it a day. They're like, okay, we've done our work here. Let's move on to other things. I'm like, this is just the starting point. You just built the foundation. Now the real work begins of how we're going to actually drive traffic to this page, because it doesn't matter how good your content is if nobody looks at it. It's pointless. It's a waste of money and time. So what we had to do, we were like, okay, well, let's allocate our resources differently. Instead of just spending all of our time creating content pieces, let's reduce the frequency that we produce content. So right now, even up to this day, we spend 20% of our resources on content creation. The other 80% goes into link building promotion.
Wow.
And that 80% of our marketing resources was wasted on manual research. So we were basically using a bunch of different tools like, okay, we put together, for example, this blog content and how we're going to build some backlinks to it. So there's a variety of strategies we can dive into that.
Yeah, for sure.
But basically it was a very tedious manual process. So what we basically decided to do was to pull it all under one roof. And we were like, okay, well, we're a software company. So we had one of our engineering team members just spend a few weeks and pull it together. And it was duct taped together by, it's just like not a very scalable solution, but it worked extremely well up to a point that we're like, guys, this is awesome. So our team was just loving it. And we're like, you know what? I think we got something here. If it can help us, I'm sure it can help a ton of other folks. So that's what they decided to release Respona as a standalone product out of Visme.
Can you elaborate about how the gaining of traction looked like? I mean, after 1 month, you already had like X backlinks and you started seeing a Y increase in visits. I mean, just walk us through the process. How long did it take? Because a lot of people are saying you shouldn't start SEO if you don't have like a run rate of 6 months or 12 months. So I'm kind of trying to understand the timeframes.
It's funny you mention this because there's a meme in the SEO space that's very famous that it's a guy that's like slapping this tape on this tank of water. So it's like, that's how all SEOs answers all questions. It's like, it depends.
Exactly.
So I'm going to use that card right now. So how long it will take for it to work is not the right question to ask, because first of all, what do you mean for it to work? You mean you get any traffic to your website? You mean you get any conversions to your website? There are so many moving pieces. SEO, when you build a website, is a puzzle. So there's a lot of different parts that you need to have together for it to work. It just never works when it's half baked. You need to have all the pieces together. Now, whether or not you should invest in SEO in the first place, as I mentioned, it depended on how you want to acquire customers. What type of product or service are you? If you're a coach and you sell, like, for example, 5-figure yearly deals, unlikely people are just actively looking for things online. Maybe unless you want to get some brand exposure. But if you know that your product to sell is something that people are actively searching about, and this is a very objective fact, you can go and use tools like Ahrefs or SEMrush. You could pop in your keywords, you can see exactly what the search volume is. And you can go ahead and take a look and see if this is something that people are actively searching for, then great. Then you can walk back. You're like, okay, well, if I were to be published in the top, for example, if I were to be able to rank for this top 3 keywords, then what would be the average conversion rate? And after that, what is the LTV of my customers? Okay, well, let's multiply these together and see what the value of that page is for my business. Okay, we have a proven ROI, so let's invest X amount of dollars into getting our website up in search results. So it's a very scientific, mathematical way of looking at it. It's not so much like, hey, it takes 3 months to get results from SEO. It's just a very simplistic, incomplete answer a lot of people give. It's so much more complicated than that. I don't mean to say here that SEO is very complicated. It's actually, the concepts are very simple. But how it would work for your business is something that you can sit down and calculate exactly what would be the value of these pages. Let me give you an example. You know how much it would cost? So right now, Visme's website gets over 2.5 million monthly organic traffic. Okay, we're in the top 5,000 websites in the world out of the 1 billion or whatever websites that are out there. Our traffic value is $1.4 million a month. So meaning that if we were to bring in the same level of traffic with the same keywords in terms of the cost per click of those keywords, we would have to pay Google $1.4 million a month, every month, to bring in the same flow of traffic. So if you calculate that, then whatever amount of money we spend on our content and SEO is minuscule compared to the ROI we're getting now. So it makes sense for us. Does it make sense for your business? I don't know. You need to sit down and calculate and see, okay, what would be the value of these pages if we were to be able to get them up in the rankings? And you also have to consider that a lot of SEOs will just build landing pages. You're like, okay, well, I just want to target presentation software. It's not just so much about just getting your sales pages up, but you need to build an infrastructure that would help that page go up. There's a topic in the SEO space, we call it the topical authority. So if you want to be able to get rankings for presentation related keywords like presentation software, you need to be an authoritative source of information about presentations. So that means you need to look at your buyer journey. You need to see, okay, for example, at the top of the funnel, people are looking for example, and keywords like how to make a presentation or how do I memorize a presentation. That has nothing to do with your presentation software you're selling. So it's all educational pieces of content. Then there is a consideration stage where they're looking for presentation templates. They're looking at different things that are not necessarily, again, at the point of purchase. And at the very bottom of the funnel, you have pages that are targeting terms like presentation software, presentation tools. And these are sales pages that you actually get conversions from. So you want to also look at the whole pipeline. So not just look at, okay, I'm going to put one page, I'm going to pay someone to build this one page for me. I'm going to get rankings tomorrow. So this is not as simple as it gets.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about what you guys are doing in order or seeing in Respona that really works with regards to building off-page SEO, like building the backlinks. Because I'm assuming that some of the listeners are already convinced that SEO is a right route to go.
That's right.
But building like you said, the on-page SEO, technical SEO is in a way easier because you just do your own thing. You hire the people and you do your own thing. But off-page SEO, link building, guest posting, PR, HARO, stuff like that, this takes a lot of effort. And this is why you guys built Respona. So let's talk about the solution you guys are providing and maybe best practices. If you can share best practices, what you see like really move the needle these days for most of your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm more than happy to. And Respona's website itself, we started our content blog in January 2020. So it's been a little over 2 years, and now it's getting close to 94,000 sessions every month. So 94,000 sessions a month within two and a half years. Nice. And we have a very small team, still bootstrap. And one person manages all of our average efforts. Nice. One junior staff member. And now he's getting promoted. Obviously, he's doing great. But basically, as far as the resource goes, I'm saying that it doesn't take as much resources as a lot of people think. It's just a matter of priorities in your business. For us, we knew from day one that if we wanted to be a link building solution and cater to SEOs, we need to do very well for our SEO as well, because that's how most people will come and find a solution like ours. So wanted to be, basically, we started investing from day one. Basically, we knew that we were going to build an infrastructure in our website and wanted to make sure that we promote this. And one person is in charge of it. And it's not a 10-man operation. It doesn't take that much time and effort as a lot of people think. Now, as far as the outreach tactics go, there's basically, I would say, a gazillion different ways on how you be able to promote your product. One of the very simple ways that I recommend that doesn't require you to have any sort of content on your website is podcast appearances. So if you're a founder or if you're a marketer with a proven background, a lot of people want to hear your story. And one of the very simple strategies is for you to build relationships with podcast hosts, exactly what I'm doing today. And so our team uses Respona. You don't even have to use Respona. You can go on iTunes and look up podcast episodes that other founders in your space have been a guest on, because that tells you three things. One, this podcast accept guests. Two, they're relevant to your industry. And also use that episode as a hook, as a way to personalize the pitch where you reach out to the host. I'm sure you get a ton of these pitches. Hi, I'd like to come on your show. Like they just send you a template email. If you actually take the time to personalize that pitch, and Respona helps you obviously automate a lot of it in terms of finding contacts and stuff, so you can focus more on personalization. But you don't have to do it from day one. If you're a founder just starting out, don't come and pay for all these fancy tools. You can probably do a lot of it yourself manually. It's just harder to scale, and that's where Respona sort of comes into play. But go on podcasts as guests, because guess what you're going to do, Yaron? You got to, first of all, I'm getting free advertising to a niche audience, right? So people who are listening to your podcast, people in the e-commerce business or people who are entrepreneurs are potential customers of Respona. So we're raising awareness about our brand, even if they don't purchase Respona today. But next time you see a Respona blog post, you're going to click on it. Next time you see our brand somewhere, you're going to recognize it. And that's very valuable for us. It's one of those 7 touch points before we make a purchase. So that's one. So reaching out to relevant podcasts in your niche, pitch yourself to go on as a guest. And also you're likely probably going to also repurpose this episode into a blog post or into a page that is going to have links to Respona in the body, right? So that's also another potential way for us to increase our domain authority. Why we take the time to go on podcasts is a very valuable marketing channel. So that's one of the simplest strategies that I highly recommend any startups that start with Respona to start with, because it doesn't require much. You just do a search and find some podcasts that are relevant to you and reach out to them with a personalized pitch. And then also, so want to get a little more advanced. If you have a product, for example, let's say we have quite a few e-commerce stores that use Respona. And one of the products, for example, we have a customer that sells like CBD gummies. We have a customer that sells like a monitoring tool for pools. So basically, if you have a swimming pool, you want to like measure the amount of chemicals in there. So like use that. So there's a lot of blog posts, because as a potential customers, I don't go and look up, for example, your brand name. The first thing I would go look up, for example, is what are the best CBD gummies, or what are the best, for example, tools to measure chemicals, or how do I measure chemicals in my tools? And there are already a bunch of blog posts that are ranking for that keyword. So if you offer an affiliate program or any sort of other incentive, you reach out to these blog posts. This is what we call the listicle strategy. So you reach out to these blog posts that are already getting rankings in Google, that are already getting a ton of traffic. That's where your customers are hanging out. So reach out to them with a personalized space and offer them an incentive. Hey, I'm happy to send you a box of free CBD gummies if you were kind to mention my product on here. Or I'm happy to share this article with my 10,000 subscribers on my newsletter. Or
quick favor, guys. If you enjoy these shows and have been a listener for quite some time now, we would really appreciate it if you could take the time to give us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your preferred podcast app may be. Having lots of ratings and audience feedback makes our show become more visible across multiple platforms. And it also supports our mission of helping as many people as possible to become better marketers and better entrepreneurs. So if you're not driving and it wouldn't be dangerous, pause this thing right now and give us an honest review over your podcast app. And we will love you even more than we already do. Thank you for taking the time, and I hope you enjoyed the show.
Yeah. There's so many different ways on how you can incentivize free products. One of them, just don't offer cash, because normally websites that accept cash are normally not the best quality ones. That you want to stay away. But that's another simple strategy, what we call a listicle strategy. So none of this is really rocket science. But there are some strategies that get a little more advanced. You're trying to now build backlinks to specific blog articles that you build. And so the way we normally go about link building after obviously get some of the simple stuff out of the way, is that when you, for example, let's take that presentation software, or let's actually take another keyword that's relevant to Respona. So we're beating Ahrefs,
nice,
HubSpot, SEMrush. So let me tell you how we did it. So what you're seeing right now is the top of the iceberg. So we know that our parent keyword is link building software. So we went ahead and built a landing page because we knew the user intent here was to try out a tool. It wasn't to read about link building tools. It was mainly to try the software. So we built a landing page. And then what we wanted to do was to basically, as I mentioned, to build the funnel to build our topical authority for the term link building, because we wanted to produce content pieces that are like, what is link building? How do I get backlinks to my website? What are the best link building strategies? Yada, yada, yada. And then once we produce these blog articles, this is what we call a silo. It's just a fancy term for saying just a group of content. Yeah. Then each one of these content pieces have an internal link to our landing page, right? So anytime we mention link building software, we just link it to our landing page, which makes sense in the context of the blog post. Now, what we do then, we don't go and build backlinks to the sales page, because guess what? Nobody wants to link to a sales page, right? So you don't go out and actually directly promote it. What we do is to go and build backlinks to these educational pieces that we've written that have an internal link to our landing page, and now it indirectly passes the link equity or link juice, as SEO say, to our landing page. So collectively over time, as we're building more pages, building backlinks to those blog posts, it's increasing the link equity that page is indirectly receiving. So that's how we've been able to push it over the top, and it's a very valuable keyword for us. So let's talk. So we know that we need to build backlinks to our blog posts, not only just to get that particular blog post up in search results, but also to be able to pass on this link equity to our sales pages that are mentioned in that blog post. So let's take a blog post as an example. For example, one of the blog posts that I think would be relevant for this podcast that we have on our website is e-commerce link building. All right, so we're not ranking for this. So let's say what we should do in order to get it up in the search results for that term. one of the first things, so there's a couple of different strategies. One of the first things you can do that's very simple. Again, I'm always trying to start with the simple stuff before we get into the rocket science, because I don't want to scare people off saying, oh, these are too complicated things. No, anybody can do this. One is reverse engineering the backlinks that some of the pages have. So for example, I see like a bunch of articles that are about e-commerce link building are already ranking in the top 10 search results. So using an SEO tool, have you heard of tools like SEMrush or Ahrefs? All right. For folks who don't know what they are, they're SEO analytics tools. It's very hard to do SEO without these tools. So I highly recommend investing in them. But if you're just starting out, don't have the budget, there are some free alternatives like Uber Suggest that I recommend you maybe start with. They're a little more affordable. We use Ahrefs ourselves just in case you're looking for a recommendation. But anyway, tomato, they'll sort of do the same job. But basically what we do is then we run the top 10 search results of Google through these tools, and they give us the backlinks that they have. So then you have a list of articles that they've already mentioned in top 10 searches on Google for that key term. So it means that those are obviously relevant. So what we want to do, so what our team does, they just drop it into Respona. Respona takes care of all the research in terms of finding the right contacts. But let me walk you through an example so I can show you guys how you can do it manually. You don't necessarily need Respona. So let's say you come across a tool, you come across a blog post written on what are the best e-commerce marketing trends in 2022. Okay, so the topical term is kind of different. And they mentioned e-commerce link building and a link to an article that's already published. So we want to find whoever is the right person for that piece. So it could be the writer of that article, but only if the writer works at the company. Because if they're a freelance writer, if they've quit their job last month, obviously it wouldn't be the right contact to reach out. So we want to find the writer only if they work there. But 75% of cases, the writer either doesn't work there or they just no writer on the house, on the page. Then what we would normally have to do is to go on LinkedIn, try to find some sort of content manager or SEO person, someone relevant in the marketing team that manages the blog, manages the content. And then find that person and then get their email using tools like Hunter or Snowview or Respona does that for you. But again, you don't have to respond. I'm just trying to give you guys alternatives. And then find their emails and you put them on a spreadsheet. You got to verify emails, make sure they're deliverable. So you use tools like Zero Bounce or Never Bounce to clean out your list. And then you export that and you put it into an email average tool, whatever average tool people use, like Mailshake or Mixmax or whatever, to send an email to them and automate the follow-ups. And that pitch is very important. There's 3 elements of any successful pitch. One is the strategy, obviously. So what is basically the overall goal? So you want to make sure that you're reaching out to, I would say, web pages that make sense. So in this case, we are reaching out to a web page that actually has a link to a competitor post. So it does make sense, but what you need to keep in mind is not to fly too close to the sun. So if your website is of lower authority, so don't want to go way above your league and reach out. For example, if we just started the blog today, don't reach out to HubSpot tomorrow, okay? Let that authority build up over time. And then when you get to a point that your domain authority, your domain rating, there's a score that these tools give you is high enough, then you can go like within plus or minus 10 of that, that you kind of stay within your league to collaborate with websites that you can actually offer value to, not just ask them to do something for you. Second step and second most important part is following what I said, is the incentives. So what's in it for them? Why do they have to take time out of their day to come and mention, right? So for example, in this case, what would be a good incentive to offer is like, hey, I noticed that you mentioned this guide on your post and it's actually a couple of years old. Our team just put together a new guide covering that term. And if you were kind to give us an addition or replacement, I'm happy to reference one of your articles in the guest post that I'm writing for this really popular marketing blog. Right. So now you have an incentive to take time out of your day to actually go and edit your article and be able to mention us in there. That's again, given that you have quality content on a decent site that they're going to do that for you. Right. So that's why I always say it's like you need to make sure you hit all the check marks before you reach out to a website. And last one on the list is personalization, because people are sick and tired of getting spam. I get these emails every day. I just open my email. There's like 20 or so just spam emails that we get on our website, mainly with people who are reaching out to support. So we automatically mark them as spam. That's why it's important to also spend the time to find the right person. Don't reach out to the founder if you're trying to pitch a guest post, right? So that's another thing. So basically what I'm trying to say is that personalization, incentive, and strategies is the three pillars of your average tactic that you want to follow. And we actually have a free average hub on Respona's website that you guys can go steal strategies from. Just if you navigate to Respona, at the bottom of the page, there's average strategy hub, and we give you ready to use recipes and templates, and it's not gated, it's free, open for everyone. So if you guys are doing average manually, feel free to go and follow that. It's a very short and sweet summary of what I'm saying. And then basically, once you start kind of going through this average strategies, about 5% of people agree to collaborate with you. So out of 100, 5 say yes. So you need to have a sense of scale. So that's why it gets quite tedious, do it over time manually. So that's sort of what Respona comes into play, so that it automates finding the right person, getting the contacts, verification. It gives you snippets that you can use for personalization that you can sprinkle in. It automates the sending actions and the follow-up. So you can focus more on personalizing that first email that you send out to maximize the reply rates and don't have to worry about a lot of the dirty work. But that's sort of the gist of any sort of average tactic.
Awesome. And do you mind sharing like a few case studies of people that were doing this manually before starting to use Respona and the transformation and what they saw and what was like the reaction and what were they able to achieve?
Sure, absolutely. So we got a ton of case studies, Yaron, on our website. So on top header of our website, if you go to case studies, there's a ton of them. But to be honest with you, between you and I and the audience, we take zero credit on those. These guys are successful not because of Respona. These guys are successful because doing things right and they're smart. So Respona in and out of itself doesn't really do any magic, right? So anything that Respona does, you can do yourself manually, but just 10 times faster. But when you do the same things as you do 10 times faster without losing quality, that means you also get 10 times the results.
Exactly.
But however, it doesn't mean it's because of Respona, right? So what we do is just here to save you time. Like, for example, we got a tool that we just released a case study with a company in New York. It's called Nifty. It's a project management tool. They tripled their traffic in 3 months, and it built over 400 backlinks in 4 months. But we have customers that had 0 backlinks built in their first 4 months. Is it our fault? Probably not. So I always say to our customers that when you purchase Respona, it's kind of like purchasing a knife. You still need to have a chef to make food for you, right? So that knife isn't going to magically make your food delicious. But if you have a good knife, it makes it easier for you to make that food faster versus having to chop things by hand. So that's sort of the analogy I like to use.
Awesome. Great analogy. And do you guys offer some sort of a done with you or done for you services, or it's mainly only the service?
Right. We would have loved to offer a service, but we are a software company. Obviously, we're a small team, so it's out of our capacity. We will offer that as a service. However, we are actually working on a Respona Guru Hub that's going live this week. So hopefully by the time this episode goes out, we're going to have that out and about. So we actually have reached out to our customer base, and we've certified some freelancers and agencies that are already Respona users. And we've checked their campaigns, looked through their basically to make sure that they're adhering to best practices, they're getting good results. So they're pre-vetted people that we're putting together in a Guru Hub, so that users of ours who come and sign up for Respona get exclusive access to this network of pre-vetted Respona influencers, Respona freelancers and agencies. And they'll be able to contact these guys directly and actually invite them to come run campaigns for them. So folks who don't either have the know-how or the resources to be able to do this manually to be able to do this in-house, they'll be able to just hire someone that we've pre-vetted already to be able to come in and run campaigns for them.
Awesome. And you mentioned resources. So let's talk about a bit like managing expectations with regards to being the chef and having some sort of a know-how. So what are like the prerequisites of someone before trying Respona? Should they know some fundamentals of off-page SEO, or do you think it's just a plug and play and it's not so crucial? So can you elaborate about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, you got to take a look to see, first of all, you need to have all the on-page stuff done first. So I always say to folks that like, if you don't have a website yet, it's just a waste of money to come pay for a Respona. Just have the website done first, right? So you want to do some keyword research. You want to build the website structure correctly. I actually have written a book on this and it's a free ebook. Users can, folks who are listening can go and download this. And it'd be great if you want to put in the show notes as well, Yaron. If you just go and Google Visme marketing strategy, and it's a 160-page guide that I wrote that explains step by step. And there's no sign of Respona or Visme in there. It's just a purely educational content that basically walks you step by step. Okay, how do you find the right keywords? How do you prioritize them? Then once you found the right keywords, how would you go about writing content pieces? How would you go about building other landing pages? And then once you have that process done, again, you don't have to go read the ebook, follow step by step, but it's a guide to sort of give you an idea of folks who are just very new to the space to have an idea of how they need to build a website first. And then once you have a website that's primed, so you have some content pieces on your website, you have some landing pages, you're like, okay, I want to get these pages ranked for my target keywords. That's when off-page SEO comes into play. You're like, okay, now let's go try to promote these pages. But if you don't have a website yet, or it's very poorly built with, duct tape, probably not worth the energy or the time to invest on promotion, because even if you build backlinks to a website that is not of high quality, it doesn't guarantee it rankings. It's, even if it goes up in the search results, Google is running billions of these tests every second. So like, if the bounce rate is high and people come in and users don't like the content on your website, they just bounce and then you get pushed out. So having more backlinks doesn't mean more rankings. So want to make sure you have all the on-page foundation things done. And then when it's ready to actually start promotion, then Respona would be a good place to be able to do that at scale.
Before we start concluding, do you mind sharing what are some common mistakes or misconceptions that you see people doing with regards to off-page SEO? Stuff that everybody's doing and you guys are not doing, but you think it's completely like a waste of time and effort?
Right. There is so many. Oh my God. So unfortunately, off-page SEO is somewhat of a relevant. It's a relatively newer concept than on-page stuff, because it wasn't as competitive back in the day for you to get your websites up in the search results, just because there weren't as many websites or as many people who were aware of content marketing and all that best practices. So it was relatively easy to be able to get your content up in the search results for some terms without having to do any sort of outreach in particular, just because the competition wasn't as high. But over time, what we were seeing is that's getting almost impossible for some terms in some industries. We would get rankings without having a solid promotion and off-page tactic strategy built in. So as far as I would say bad practices,
exactly.
There is more bad practice in the off-page space than there's good practice. I got to leave it with that. So there's first, I would say some novice stuff a lot of people do is that they go hire someone on Fiverr that advertises, I got you 1,000 backlinks for $10. So what they're doing is, just to explain, they have something called private blogger network. So they basically own a bunch of sites and they just stuff these links to their clients in there. So it doesn't cost them anything. And it's, first of all, it's straight up against Google policy. And at some point, these networks are going to get caught and those links are going to get nullified. So even if you don't get penalized, or if you don't, tank your rankings for all the keywords that you work so hard to get, those links would be worthless in the long run. So I would say that staying away from shady, link sellers, PBNs, dark hat. I would say nobody calls themselves black hat. Everybody says white hat, but doesn't mean they actually are. The only tactics that work are organic outreach, people that actually spend the time for each page to go and find the right websites for that, to find the right person and collaborate. One very bad practice that I see often is paying for links with cash. That is a big red flag. Even if it's a legit site that has a lot of traffic or a lot of good domain authority, we highly advise against paying for someone to include the backlinks from you. Again, against Google policy, but not the only reason why. The reason why is that those websites that accept payments from you are accepting payments from everyone. So what that means is that at some point, these links are going to get nullified. And also that's just an indication to me that that website is not very serious because, or is of high quality. Because if, for example, if I'm reaching out to HubSpot and I'm like, hey, let me pay you $100 to give me a backlink, they're going to laugh in my face, right? Why? Because they could care less. And these are the type of websites you want links from. We do have an editorial default link from HubSpot. And the process of getting those is vastly different from just contacting a bunch of bloggers and paying them to include backlinks to your site. That's one thing that is very difficult to do because a lot of bloggers ask for payments from the first place, in the first place. So to navigate through and find strategies, include different sorts of incentives to sort of weed out some of these bad sites, I would think is one of the most important things in the average space.
Wow, a lot of takeaways. For me, I didn't know that the buying the backlink is such a big no-no, but I wrote this down, and I also liked what you said. I liked a lot of stuff that you mentioned, but I really like the fact that you only reaching out to people with 10% below you or 10% above you. This way you climb the ladder and you don't just shoot for the stars and get no response for like HubSpot or like
exactly.
blog. So this is very valuable. Is there anything else that you would like to mention or talk about before we conclude?
No, I think that's pretty much it as far as, well, hopefully my interview today didn't come across as, oh, these things are too complicated to implement and would scare people away from attempts to benefit from it. SEO is, in my years in marketing, I haven't found a single marketing channel that has a higher ROI than SEO. And I'm biased because the type of companies I work with are very SEO heavy companies, but I haven't seen a more scalable, more, I would say, evergreen way of acquiring customers than through organic channels. So I highly recommend people to take it seriously, to do the math. And if it's something that is worth the ROI, go all in. Don't go cheap with SEO. It is never going to work. It's just going to be wasting your money. If you don't have the cash or the resources, just produce less content, produce lower number of pages, but then spend the rest of your time on promotion and link building. So you produce one blog post once a month and spend the rest of the month building backlinks to that blog post. And then next month you repeat the same instead of you writing 4 blog posts a week and not have any time or money left to do any sort of promotion. So that's one thing I would hope people take away from this interview.
For sure. Do you have any resources that you mind sharing, like books or except for your guys' blogs? Is there any books that you find very valuable with regards to link building or SEO that you find like really trustworthy and with no fluff and bullshit?
Right. I wouldn't recommend any books in particular, like physical books, just because they normally get outdated very quickly since it's a very fast moving industry. I do recommend a couple of blogs that I would highly recommend people to look into. One is the Ahrefs blog. So Ahrefs, I know it's weird to pronounce, but like AHREFS /blog. They have lots of very good quality content on their website about SEO, different tactics. I also recommend Backlinko's blog, backlinko.com. They also, Brian Dean is the person who manages it. They also have very good quality guides. And also, I think Ahrefs also has a free SEO course by Sam O. It's a great connection of mine, great acquaintance of mine. And those two, I would say, are very good places to start. And then once you get a little more advanced, maybe subscribe also to Search Engine Journal to kind of keep a tab on updates in the industry. But I wouldn't start from there. Normally, Ahrefs and Backlinko are a lot more beginner friendly.
Awesome, great. And I think Brian Dean, I think Backlinko was purchased by SEMrush.
SEMrush, that's right. Yes, they purchased them. Yes, nice. So we shall see how it impacts. But he still manages the blog, so I'm hoping that quality content will decline. But yes, that's right.
Yeah, we'll see. Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much for that. It was very valuable, insightful, and very interesting. For me, me personally, I'm overlooking SEO because I used to invest a lot of money in Facebook ads. And I think it's what a lot of e-commerce people did, like heavily investing in Facebook ads. And now people are moving to TikTok. But I believe, as you said, SEO makes a lot of sense if you know how to do this right. I'm sure that the stuff that you shared in this episode will be very valuable for the people who decide to do the leap of faith and start creating SEO content.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you very much, Yaron. Thanks for having me on the show.
Sure. Hi Hi guys, this is Yaron again. Just a few more things before you take off. Number 1, if you want to learn more about e-commerce and marketing, make sure you check out our YouTube channel, which is called EcomXFactor Official. Number 2, check out our Facebook group, which is called EcomXFactor Marketing and E-commerce Mastermind. This is a great place to ask questions and connect with other business owners. And last but not least, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to share it with your friends and colleagues, plus leave a review at your favorite podcast app.